welcome back to another SuperCoach video with me, JD. You're joining me for the round 5 review. We have had a pretty average week again, at least in the FantasyTakeTV Discord. This is pretty average, but I scored 23-3-1. That moved me up around 8,000 spots overall to about 13,000 for the season. So moving up the last couple of weeks, which is of course nice. But as you can see, the league wins, I think 3 out of 10 again, which I think has been about my average. And if you have a look at the lead ranks, you'll see why. The boys at FantasyTakeTV, we are absolutely stacked. So 20-man, the biggest leagues, we've got, and this is probably the one that matters most, we've got the top 5 here. So like Hall of Fames, regs, and captains, I'm in all 3 of these. So not getting too many wins there. In the 6 team, we're 4th, which I'm in that one. In the 8 team, we're 1st, which I'm in. In the 10 team, we're in 1st, which I'm in. In the 12 team, we're in 2nd, which I'm in. We don't have any 14 or 16 team leagues, and then 18 leading that as well. So what, like how many is it that we're leading so far? Like maybe 5 of them, something, 4 of them. So yeah, I'm playing in some pretty competitive leagues, needless to say, not getting too many wins. And I'll tell you what, it feels awful across the weekend too, because we're comparing scores, and this was not a good score. Like, this is just not a good score in Discord, and we'll go through why it wasn't a good score. And it's just like, it's a bad, like, this is the bad part about being in competitive SuperCoach, is you have a week that looks okay, like a top 6% score is pretty good. And comparing to everyone else around you, this is like keeping up with the Jones type effect. It's just not a good score. So it felt pretty average the whole weekend, even though this wasn't too bad. So we'll jump into why. It's, of course, upgrade season. We're going to go through trades this week, rookies we should be targeting, trade strategy and all that, as well as some left field options you can look at, because I think a couple of nice ones popped up this week, and we'll go from there. So why wasn't my score good compared to others? I think there was mainly 3 or 4 big differences that other top teams have. So Dawson over Ridley was pretty big. That was 60 points this week. So a lot of people would now have Dacos, Stewart, and Ridley as their big 3, which seems to be the right setup for defensive premiums at the moment. So definitely lost out some points there. And then in the midfield, look, Kelly was the one I brought in this week, which I'll go through why in a second. It wasn't my first choice. It was second choice and ended up not being great. But yeah, so Laird was 135. Oliver got saved with the 115. Setterfield beat him by 11 points as well. So a lot of these other popular options, which I don't have this week, all outscored. So between those two, like that's 60 points. That's another 50 points. So yeah, a lot of teams kind of made up ground on me that way. So why Josh Kelly? So if you watch my trades strategy video from last week, it was about making sure we freed up money this week, so we could ensure we do 2 down, 1 up, and get upgrading, even though there wasn't a ton of cash on our rookies. But with the late news that C-Mac was not only not playing, but was going to be the sub, I had to trade him over Warple, which means I had less money, which means rather than getting Took Miller, who was my first preference, I had to get Josh Kelly. As you can see, the cash wouldn't allow it. And so that was another, that was 40-point loss this week, and another extra 40 points to my score would have been pretty good. But Warple on the plus side did ton up, so keeping him was definitely the right move. And with Day out another week, it seems it's going to be hard to get away from him this week, which then makes trading even more difficult, because that's a lot of money to not be trading, and trying to get to a premium, it's pretty hard. So just going through the team quickly, Dacos is going to be, I think, a vice captain or captain option every week from here to the end of the year. It seems just insane accumulation, and it doesn't seem like the Pies are going to change that game plan. It's winning, and it doesn't seem like teams want to tag him, and that's probably because they can't, to be honest. I wouldn't be surprised if Essen has a go this week for the Anzac Day clash, but I just can't see who would put that can run with him. Honestly, maybe like we've got wingers that could maybe match him for endurance, like Durham or Martin, but they probably don't have the pace. We could put someone like Andy McGrath, move him out of the back line, which I don't think we do just because it messes with our structure. And he might match him for burst, but probably gets beaten on endurance. I think this is one of the hardest parts about Dacos. It's just so hard to match up on him. What we saw, other teams do, I think, is more check the run through the middle. And I think that's what's Tim's gonna have to do, is just everyone have an eye out for him and check when he runs through, especially out of defense 50. But he's so hard to tag, and that just means every week, vice captain or captain option for Dacos, he's absolutely viable for those. Stewart was the one I traded in this week over Dawson, which looked like that was going to be pretty bad too. I mean, Dawson and Miller over Stewart and Kelly would have definitely been my preference, but with value in mind and then having to keep Warple, and it went the value path, but that worked out well. So Stewart the 135. So yeah, it was like a 17-point loss on Dawson, but it was 50k cheaper. So yep, happy with that trade in. I think everyone else that brought in Stewart would be happy with that too. And really, he took his foot off the pedal can't speak tonight. Put foot off the pedal in the second half of that game. The concerns about Duncan seem to be a little bit unfounded in a way. Like, it just didn't seem to play out as big of a deal. Let's just have a quick look here to see if we've got any kick-ins for that game, just to see if Duncan did take many of them. I know he did take some early. We do have them. This is a very even spread. All right, Stewart had 3. I mean, yeah, it's not like he'd been taken over. It's weird that they spread them this much. Okay, so yeah, Stewart, very happy with that pick. I think his break even goes up a little bit now. It's a 121, just given that he had that poorer score in between, the 92. Good history against the Swans, Dons. I mean, he's in Adelaide, so yeah, very happy with Stewart. Good buy too. All right, Ridley, this was frustrating, to be honest. To be honest, like, he was better than a 91. He had lots of great intercepts. He was clean. He didn't drop his marks like he had in other weeks. He hit basically all his kicks. I don't remember him really having a clanger or anything like that. And just didn't get the scaling, didn't get the points, which is frustrating. So is he top 6? Clearly not. Am I trading him anytime soon? I don't think so either. This is like a luxury trade that will stay at D6 until upgraded in the buys. I expect him to average low 90s, maybe mid 90s if he gets a couple of spike games. But yeah, the preference is definitely still through Redman, although I have a feeling he took more kick-ins this week. He did get a bigger share of kick-ins this week, which is interesting that shift happened. And he also didn't get kept on the bench for long periods this week either. But yeah, the scoring just didn't translate. All right, across the defensive line, we've got Ginbey, McKenna, Wilmot. So Ginbey played, but then got subbed out as a bit of a rest. Looked a bit sore and tired, and he's going to be a trade-out target for us this week. His break-even is 81, which is now above his average. Now, if he was to play a couple of full games, could he reset this? Absolutely. We've seen through that first 3-game stretch here, 85, 76, 104, that he's got much better scoring than his last 2 weeks of 40 and 51. But it's going to take a few weeks to redo his cash gen, and I don't have a lot of other rookies that need trading at the moment, so Ginbey is going to be one on the chopping block this week. McKenna, suffered from Daniel Rich coming back in the side. You can see him in kick-ins alone. There wasn't many for them to take. There was only 4, but he went from 3 and 7, although he only took 2 and 4 over the past 2 weeks to 1, which he didn't play on from this time. So yeah, you lose a few things there. Scored nothing in the first quarter, so if you consider that, the other 3 quarters scoring 55 is pretty good. Like, would have normally been about a 70 game, and that's a fieldable score. But he's got a break even of 25 and against GWS this week, so we've got another wait and see. He should get above 300k hopefully with a decent score. But yeah, if he doesn't score well next week, then he's someone that you might look to move on then. Wilmot. We should be talking about DPP because they're adding that now. They've been doing it one at a time, so it's been coming in really slowly. Wilmot is now DPP eligible. He had a 68 and looked pretty good on the weekend. The 68 means, in his rolling average, means he should make another 40 to 50k from here over the next couple of weeks. So he's a solid hold for now. Who's their upcoming? I mentioned GWS, so he could score well again there. And then Cowan continues to be pretty disappointing as a rookie, to be honest. And I'm somewhat surprised he still is holding his job. But injuries and stuff helped. It's like there's so little money in him, there's nothing you can really do. So he just sits there for now. And then Constable continues to tear up the 2s, but won't get a game. Other defenders worth talking about is, of course, Dawson, who gets his mid status. Was awesome. He's break even still 54, so he's going up more on this, which you'd expect with a 173 and a 152 in his system. But this is too pricey now for me, 655k. This is up there with the top mids. This is priced in the 120s, something like that, which I mean, that's what he's averaging. I just don't expect it to continue, despite how good he's been as a mid. Although it's really worrying when you see him playing the Hawks this week. And they haven't been tagging either, so it's not even like you can pray for the Finn McGuinness tag. So, yeah, he'll probably go big again, but like he's too far gone for me now. And if you don't have him, I'd say you're probably in the same boat. You just have to sit on the sidelines. But for those that did get him, great. And the DPP, of course, helps. Other premiums worth talking about, I guess, like Sicily's one that's on many of our watch lists. It just doesn't seem to be getting used in the same way that we've seen before. He also had lower kick-ins, I want to say. Yeah, I mean, Hardwick took 11 out of 10. Sicily had 1. They even used Seamus Mitchell, who we'll talk about, over him. So yeah, just wasn't getting involved in the cheap kick mark stuff, which is really worrying signs. Had to play more accountable as well. These are the like poor games that you can get. And I thought on that narrow ground he'd score well. Like that's what we see at Stewart at Goomba. So yeah, he's in free for all a bit, 154. So you're going to be able to get him cheaper, but I'm not sure you really want to. And then like Sinclair's the other one worth talking about, who played I think a lot of midfield time in the second half of this game. Let's have a quick look at the kick-ins. He had 4. Miller had 6, and then let's have a look. Did he get CBAs? Yes. So I think second half he played more midfield and just didn't score as well in it, which I guess was some of the concern in the preseason that midfield might not score as well. So he lost. He's now down to 550, 113 break even. He's got the first buy, so like I like him as an upgrade target probably then, but he's getting cheap enough that maybe you just pull the trigger now if you really need another defender. Scored well against Carlton last time they played, which is nice. Port's a tough matchup, and then North Adelaide, GWS Hawks. That's a really nice run of 4 games there. So you could even target him around that round 8 mark. Defenders, like people brought in Sard, who I guess like I hadn't been a big fan of, and to be honest, he had a poor game and still scored all right. So, like he still ended up with 85. He conceded like 4 goals by himself. So, yeah, whatever. Lloyd keeps turning back the clock. I still don't think this is a real premium option. And then Baker's been like a decently good, like cheaper price option, but I'm worried about what happens when like Short returns to the side, for example. So yeah, like it's not one I want to jump on. Ryan had a poorer game, and yeah, like I still just don't not interested. So yeah, of those not in my side, like Dawson, Sicily, Sinclair are probably the 3 I'm still most interested in. Redmond, I kind of warned people that just may not be consistent or what you're looking for. Buckley has surprisingly kicked on. He's been very good. And then the only other ones worth talking about is Day's still a target for me when he comes back, is Jones, who had a very good score in the wet. Stocker had another good score. So these guys are making good money. Michelini, people went to, he was just okay. I think he'll get better scores than this, to be honest. But these are all fine fieldable options. And then let's talk about Chase Jones, because he is in defense. So he played wing for the last couple of games for the Crom. If you're looking for a mid-pricer option, then look, you can see once he was a sub 34, then 93, 116 last 2 Hawks next matchup. So he could drop another big score, make a fair bit of money playing on the wing there. That is 1-2 as a real left field option, very unique. We won't go through the other one yet. So actually, he probably has DPP. He does. So Johannesson, JJ, has been played down back. He's even getting kick-ins for the Dogs now. 2, 4, and 3 across the last 3 weeks. This is continuing to hurt players like Dale and Richards from, I think, really being good scoring. But we've seen a 112, 79, 49. So he's been building nicely over the last few weeks. Priced at 326, which is now, a bit expensive. But break even of -2, and he's got that nice swing that will work with a Sheasel or a Zeeble. So yeah, if you're looking for another left field option, JJ is one that you could consider. I think that's pretty much everyone in defense. In the midfield, so Yeah, I traded out Setterfield, obviously, and the first quarter of Setterfield versus Oliver looked amazing, where they're both keeping each other down. Second quarter, not too bad, and then in the second half, that kind of got released a little bit. I mean, like you're still following him around. It wasn't a hard tag or anything like that, but they both found a lot more of the ball, which was bad for me because I would have really benefited from a poor Setterfield score as well as a poor Clary score, but not to be. I mean, 115 is still bad for Clary. But yeah, like his fixture's nice and he hardly lost any money. What, like 7K? 168 break even. This, if you don't have him, you just have to keep waiting and hope that he drops another poor score. But honestly, like look at these like numbers. It's probably not happening. But yeah, 110's I guess is a win out of Oliver at the moment for non-owners. Laird dropped to 135, which is a bit annoying because I was hoping he'd lose a bit more money. His break even still kind of high on the 137, but once again, as we talked about the Hawks, he went 178 a couple of years ago against them. So yeah, this is like I kind of want him to wait and drop a little bit more. 640 still quite highly priced, but I could understand why people would like Laird as a target option this week. From my mids, like Bont obviously had a really nice game, and I think some people went VC or C on him, and you would have been rewarded for that. 145 was great. Kelly, this is really disappointing. He was on track to ton on the first half. Second half, when Rowston was subbed on, they moved Kelly more out to the wing, and they just, I don't know if this is because of the ground size, that they just weren't using him for like short chip marks through the ground. I think he averages like 4 or 5 marks a game. He had one, and he was presenting up for those options, running around the back, and just wasn't getting used. So that's kind of concern for me. And I'm guessing that we will see a dip in the CBAs, which was like the whole like buy philosophy on Josh Kelly was, oh no, it's like ended up not being that bad. Okay. But yeah, I think he lost some when Rowston came on. Still a tight rotation. The Hawks beat them pretty badly in the second half in stoppages, which helped them get close. Warple only went up a little bit, but it definitely felt like he was more on the ball and less at half forward. I mean, Newcomb, you saw that in particularly. He had a really good game. Nash did well. And then C-Mac played primarily mid when he came on, but unfortunately that's too little too late. He's already gone. Dunkley had a good game. We were hoping for more of these. And Neil, this is like frustrating because Neil was also one that was starting to get cheap, but then he went 180 something. Break even's now 90 and he's 640k. I haven't seen enough good, consistent form for me to want to jump on Neil after this. I mean, he's only gone sub 100 once, but yeah, this is hard to jump on. GWS, good matchup. Frio is a good matchup. Carlton's been actually like, they were really hard to score against the midfield, but not too bad. So his fixture's nice. And then Essendon, he's track record against us must be like a 160 average. So yeah, nice fixture, but at 636k, you've got Miller and who I guess we'll look at Miller and Laird as options as well. So it's probably hard. And the reason why Gold Coast is interesting is their matchups are quite nice. So North, we just saw some big scores put up against them, which was Neil and Dunkley. Tigers, who are not looking good at the moment, and Took has great history on. Melbourne, who he's gone, 141 average over the last 3 against them. Then West Coast and Brisbane. So, like, then Dogs and Adelaide. So, like, and then Hawks there. So, like, really, if you look at these next 10 games, like 6, 7 of them are pretty favourable matchups. So, break even's 112, 624k. That's a nice option as well. 12% of teams, so it's somewhat unique. I like all of those as midfield options. Green, this could have been much better, but got tagged pretty hard by Nash in the second half, who limited him effectively. It was on for a bigger score than that. And Cogs, who should be in my forward line, but is in my mids. I mean, I guess the same with Dunkley, was probably on for a bigger score than this as well, but didn't get as much done during the crunch time. Also had a few of those clangers. Hopper had a really nice game. So break even's now 46, made 45k. So a bit of a reward for holding. He's in, 38% of teams now? I swear, what happened? Yeah, like there was 50%, so like 12% of teams have traded him. Unlucky. Actually, not really unlucky. That's on you. So this is nice. He will get us to... I mean, Hopper's a type of player that can get me a 1-up, 1-down to like a 600k player eventually. So a couple more games out of him. Hopefully Melbourne continues to like points. Gold Coast, West Coast, these are all like decent matchups over the next 3. Happy with Hopper. Warple, as I mentioned, with no day, got more mid time. 100, Brissetti's break even. He looked pretty good too, so I imagine they continue to play him on the ball. Adelaide is, I guess, like a somewhat tough matchup, but that low break even, we should get, well, what's projected in here? 24, 26. I mean, if I get another 50K out of him over the next 2 weeks, gets to 407, then I trade him on. I'd be pretty happy with that. And then Ashcroft looked really good. I think he had a negative ratio, I want to say, like fantasy to SuperCoach. If I got my fantasy team here. Look. Oh, it's open to 94. Yeah. So this could have given minus 20 points. He's been really good. His break even's 44. It's actually like just a little bit high just because he's already up in the 300K. So someone that is like basically now one bad game away from being able to move on. As we talked about, like the Brisbane line fixture isn't too bad though with GWS and Freo in the next couple, so could continue to score well. And of course, he's an every week midfield or like on-field option for your teams, just because the CBAs have gone up last couple of weeks as well, 48, 47, which is nice. Holland's put in 65, which is solid, but nothing spectacular. Break even of 33 now. And then Baker is one that you can probably start to look on. He's got an average of 59, which is a bit above this 46 break even, but the 95 that he scored for us when Hopper was out a few weeks ago is now out of his system, which makes him a little bit less appealing, although the Dogs fixture coming up is really nice. Freo, Hawks, GWS, Carlton, Adelaide, Gold Coast in the next 6. So 4 to 5-ish kind of really nice matchups for Dogs, which, by the way, if you're looking at like Johannesson, is like a reason to jump on. Like English Bond should all be good through that period as well. Davey was apparently going to play and then wasn't named and wasn't sub, wasn't in the best 26. I don't think he played 2, so I think it was a genuine rest. Interesting to know what happens next week, because I thought Snelling was very good, who came in and played for him. And I mean, Menzie had a bit of a down game, but he's been good for us all year. So do they give Menzie a rest and play Davey? I'm not sure. I don't think he warrants coming back in over Snelling. So Davey might get held out now, which is a little bit of a worry. We should talk about Mackenzie, because that's obviously a popular one. Can't even spell it. So he lost 100. He's got a break-in of 89. So this is like you just trade him now. It's going to take a long time for this to fix up, and he's going to lose cash before he makes it. So Mackenzie's a trade option this week. Let's have a quick look at any other midfielders that are worth talking about. I think people jumped on Cripps, which I wasn't a big fan of with Walsh back in the side, and that played out. Sarong is a cheaper one that is an interesting option this week. We'll talk through cheaper options because that might be where I land. Degoe missed, which is unfortunate for people that held him. I think a lot of the top 10 had him. Merritt had a very good game. Again, he's been good all year without being amazing. What's his average now? 108. 3 on average of 111. Had a couple of poor games, but also got attention a fair bit early on. Essendon's fixture's tough. Parrish is a weird one. He's had 30 touches in every game so far. He's averaging like 30 something. It's a lot, but is just averaging the 105. So probably one that we're avoiding for now. McRae continues to play that awkward role, but he didn't get that forward eligibility, which is tough. And then really there's a lot of disappointment when it comes to the rest of the mids. LD had a poor game. It's actually getting kind of hard to pick who's your top mids. I guess it's Oliver, Neil, Bont, Miller, Still, Laird. What's that, 5? And then it's the next 3 after that's probably harder to pick. Brayshaw continues to have poor games. I mean, he's 540. That's crazy. And what's his break even? 121. He can go lower than that. Don't know how we're going to see him turn around and form though. Let's have a look at break evens then for rookies that I'm not thinking of. We'll talk about Roberts, but that looks like probably the number 1 option this week. Actually, I'll just talk about Roberts now. So he was sub for a couple of games, and I think if you watch my round review videos, I talked about how unfortunately he's a sub because he's a very good player and scored very well in his time on ground. Like his points per minute's really good. Actually had a proper game time, and 93. So look, you can see sub games in here. 93. So despite this being his 4th game, he actually has only gone up 20k, and is as a only 6k over what you could have paid for him at the start of the year. So this is really nice. The interesting thing is, does he hold his spots? Because if you looked at the team sheets for that game, they had 3 outs, which were, I want to say it was Buddy and then the two McCartan brothers. And they brought in like three that weren't tools effectively. I should just get up the teams from last week. I just go to the wrong round. I did. Yeah, so they brought in Chad's younger brother, McLean, Roberts, and Will Gould. Will Gould was the sub. And then they had out Rampy, Franklin, McCartan. So this is 3 defenders and a forward. And they brought in a forward, 2 mids, and then Will Gould played as the sub. So, like, really interesting to see what happens with, like, as these return, who gets dropped and what they, like, how they structure up. Tigers obviously had to play a weird structure themselves. So, yeah, that's the only, I guess, knock on Roberts is, like, what is his role and what's his spot in the team look like when they return. But he's probably the number 1 option this week. MJ, Matthew Johnson's probably another one. And it's a similar story where he's had 2 sub games and, you know, so to 2 pretty low scores, actually got a proper opportunity and scored 67. But Brody was the sub. So how they handle that now and what the team looks like when they push Johnson back out, I guess, is the question mark. But I do like him as a talented youngster that's now, 2nd or 3rd year in the system, as someone that could score really well for us if he holds down a spot, and he's still at a relatively cheap price point. Will Phillips is the really, really, really unfortunate one to own because he could have scored more than what he scored on the weekend, but slowed up in the second half after a knock. But for those that remember, he wasn't going to play, and then I think he was sub round 1. Then he got dropped, and then LDU had the calf, and he came in and played that game. And then he's played the next 2 after that as well. And now Simpkins broken his hand. So his job security should be good. He should continue to get CBAs, and he's now got forward DPP as well. So you can play him in your forward line, and he's probably going to get you 70s to 80s. This is an amazing rookie pickup that we got robbed of because this was in everyone's team as our M9 until all that stuff happened at the start of the year. And now I don't have him at what? I don't know how 35% of teams have him. I'm sure that's a lot of teams that are ghost ships, but there's a lot of good coaches that will actually have him. So not having Phillips is a bit of a disaster because he's already made 100K, 7 break even. He's going to go 150 easy. He's going to go good on-field scoring your forward line. Yeah, just pain. McVee's turned out all right. The last 3 weeks have all been pretty good. Tigers, North Gold Coast is the next 3, a nice matchup. So, yeah, he's made 120. He's going to get to 150. It ended up being a pretty good pick. Wagner is one to watch for next week, I guess, as a mature age. I don't know what his score was in the end, 39. He looked like okay early. He was getting lots of ball, but just, yeah, wasn't good. Callahan, he scored a 72. He's made 30K on the year. Break even's 20. Oh, wow. You don't even have to trade him. So good. All right, let's have a look quickly then at ones that we want to trade out that I might not have covered. So best way to do this is probably filter 300K. And then look at some break evens this way. Although it's hard to... No. Better way to do this would be by coach ownership, I think. And then just have a look at BEs here. So yeah, Gimby you can trade. This isn't to do mid, so we can just do all of them here. Sorry, this has been all over the shop. It's kind of streamer conscious. So Gimby can trade. Mackenzie can trade. Baker, it's team dependent. You can trade if you've got no one better. Chandler, team dependent. You can trade if you've got no one better. Brad Galea's had 2 really good games, and this could have been a ton if he could kick the ball well. So yeah, not having him is now going to be pretty tough watch because this is going to shoot up in cash gen. He's going to get to the 150. And I think a lot of people actually, well, not a lot, but some people fielded him this week. So they got a really nice score out of it as well, which hurts when you're fielding scores that aren't anywhere near at 88. Yeah, Hollands, Long, they're fine. You want to keep all these. Jones, we talked about having a really good score in the wet for an intercept defender. I know some people traded him, which is unfortunate. Kama, I mean, this is a forward rookie only, but that's fine. He looks like he's going to get 3 to 4 weeks, I would say, for the hit on Murphy in that sense. I don't know how they'll adjudicate it because Murphy contributed to it and he ducked in but he still hit him hard enough to concuss him. So I think there's going to be weeks there. Just how many is the question. And that means that even though he's got, what's his break even, 25, it's a little bit awkward with how much money he's made, 230k, but like you might be able to trade Camera if it works for your team. Because holding 4 weeks is rough. King, you shouldn't really have him if you've been listening to me. And then there's no one else really in here that sticks out as a must-trade rookie. I mean, no one has Flanders anymore. No one's got Darcy. Yeah, we're into the low. Oh, if you got Amadi, trade him out. That's fine. Shouldn't have got him anyway. Yeah, okay. So yeah, so I think that's the trade targets there in the rookies for who you can get rid of. They've got high break evens. I think the mid-pricer, only real mid-pricer trade out this week would be Setterfield of the popular ones, whose break even's like 80, so he could still make more money, but like it's fine to trade him. All right, so I think it was the midfield into the rucks. So all 4 rucks scored well this week: English, Marshall, Grundy, and Darcy. I'm not sure how Grundy got his score because he got worked over incredibly hard, and he had like 2-to-1 SuperCoach fantasy ratio. But the talk is that Gorn's coming back this week, so that's going to hurt his scoring, you would imagine. However, his break-even's low, so even if Gorn is back, I think you can hold. He should beat the 67. You can wait a week if you want to. English is now, 670k. Break-even's 1 of 3, which based on his, 140 average, he'll beat by 40 and go up another 15k. But you'll make more money from Grundy, even though you lose the points, which makes the trade a little bit easier next week if you've got other stuff to do. So I think you could do that. I mean, you could always go for someone like Darcy, who is a much better value option, but English is number 1 ruck. So yeah, he lost obviously that money to start with. So he's only 10k over his starting price, even though he's gone 131 in the last 3 weeks, which is good. It's good scoring, but he's had stuff to opposition. How he goes against English and then Big O, who are like more restrictive, will be interesting over the next couple. But yeah, I mean, otherwise, like I wouldn't be trading or mucking around with any of the rucks. Like Grundy's probably going to be a trade in a week's time when Gorn comes back. All the others, I think you could just hold for now. But if you don't have English, then that's the one that's hurting, and you probably want to get to at some point, unless you're just hoping he gets injured. Forward line. So let's talk forwards. Taranto continues to be good. I would imagine he's the F1 for now. Oh, actually, Dunkley's gone past him with the 133. But yep, they're both good. Goulden's been an all right price at these, like how much we paid for him. He's averaging 100. Rosie had a very disappointing game where he was missing for most of it and then came back in the second half. And that'll lead to one of the options we'll talk about, which is Butters. So yeah, look, you can see 91% CVAs last week, 60%. Definitely had less of it this time. And Butters, 64%, 68%. So he's now back into a CVA role in the last couple. Horn Francis was interesting, by the way, missing for like a lot of this game and then was great in the third, which saved teams that had him, which also hurt me because I think he's still pretty highly owned, Horn Francis. Why is it searching for teams and not players? There we go. Yeah, 32% of teams. So him recovering his score to 86 wasn't great for me either. A bit like Setterfield and Oliver. This week could have been so good for me. They all came back, and then Kelly, who was going well, faded. But anyway. So yeah, like happy with all of these. Zeeble, I think, has been a great pickup. Traded him in before the bubble, 350k. He's now made nearly 100 himself, 90 there, averaging 100. Got the DPP. He looks like a cheap keeper for me. Sheasel, a cheap keeper for everyone. He's now up to 233k. Copped the knock to his quad, and then had his thumb strapped as well, and was like a little bit off after that. Although North as a whole was off after that. But yeah, I think he's looking like a really cheap keeper, which is super handy for team planning at the moment. And if not, look, he's going to be very cheap upgrade to a premium for all of us when it happens. Horn Francis, we talked about. Chandler has had a couple of down games in a row. As I mentioned, that 47 break even. He's made the 155k. For those trading him in at 200k, then this is the disappointing part when you trade in rookies at 200k. If they don't kick on, they can ease up in cash gen real quickly. And that's what we've seen with Chandler, just the 80k since then, which isn't the end of the world. Like, it's not terrible, but you've made it fast. He's been okay to field, but yeah, you could look to move on. Fergus Green, 2 huge weeks. So 76, 73, and this was the forward that I saw in the preseason I really wanted to own. So even though this looked like it wasn't going to be a great rookie pick, he's now made 110k and he's got a negative 15 break even. He's only a couple of poor games from us needing to trade him back out, but he's going to get to 150k, should get into the high 200s, which is great from Ferg. And then Ryan was the one that I picked over JVR this week. And if you listen to, I think, podcasts and also my videos, I've talked a lot about why, which was I think he will end up being the number one ruck. I don't know about that, but he left like an easy 100 on the table. He dropped, I want to say, like 7 marks. It was 6 or 7 marks. The conditions weren't great, but even then, like, somewhat uncontested, which was just bad. His ruck work was much better than Miller's. He had something like 7 of 11 hitouts to advantage early. Have they got hitouts to advantage in here? Ruck contests. He was just so much better than Miller in the ruck. Painful. So they've got how many ruck contests, but they haven't got the easy comparison of like what that actually meant in raw numbers. But yeah, like, he was much better as a ruck. It's where a lot of his scoring went. So I hope they give him a go at number one ruck. Although this week against Grundy Gone, scary. Maybe I don't want that. But yeah, I mean, he reset his break even because what was it? The 27 rolls out, so it goes back down to 0. Should make some good money from here. The Van Ruin, who was the other popular option, made obviously a fair bit more than that. Made the 50k, got a nice break even, -1 as well, so we'll continue to make money. I'm just a little bit more worried about his job security with Gawn potentially coming back and Brown coming back as well. The forward line didn't look great, but once again, conditions weren't amazing for it either. And Goodwin in the presser said that they still hadn't settled their forward line. They're still experimenting and trialing things. So what that means, who knows? But I was worried about his job security, so I wanted Ryan. Also the DPP, which was nice. So we've got that. All right, I think I've gone through everything. So trade philosophy for this week is pretty simple. We want to start upgrading. We want to use boosts to be upgrading. Doesn't matter how many boosts you've already used. I've used 3, which is probably too many at this point in the season. But you want to start using these to upgrade your team, otherwise you get left behind. And the reason why you need to use them now anyway is because a lot of the rookies that we're trying to trade out, if you don't have a Setterfield, for example, don't have enough cash on them because they've usually failed a little bit early, started a bit early for you to get to a premium. And so you're going to try and get rid of as many of these as possible. So as I mentioned from mine, Gimby, trade out. If you've got a McKenzie, that's a must trade out, I would say as well. Otherwise, you're starting to look at like your Baker, your Chandler, these types that you could trade out instead. All right, well, I can put Zeeble down back. Why not? I can put some forwards in the forward line. Do I leave the GWS brothers together? Maybe. Maybe not. All right, so as I mentioned, Roberts was probably the number 1 trade target this week. Oh, he's a forward mid now, which is super good because if I'm getting rid of, say, a Chandler, I can now play Roberts in the forward line rather than a Ryan or a Green. And then, although I could always bring, Zeeble back down the forward line anyway. But Wilmot's already playing out. I want to play Cowan. All right, so Johnson, I think, is probably the other one that we're looking at as a rookie option. And then the one we're going to be looking at next week, as I mentioned, was Mitchell at... why can't I spell his name? It's filtering for a certain position, isn't it? Yeah, okay. So yeah, Mitchell here, 123. So that he looks like a good option for next week. If you, for whatever reason, already have one of Roberts or Johnson, which I can't imagine too many of you, maybe you look at jumping early on him, or you could look at De Williams from Port, who had his second game, and they played Burn Jones forward over Williams. Hold on. Oh, Williams is a forward. That's right. He hasn't played enough games to get the defender eligibility because he would have had swing too. That's annoying. So they played him back over Burn Jones. So maybe that's a good sign for him in the future that they'll continue to play him. And they did get another win as well. So 2 wins since being in the side. So hard to displace. All right. So I am now in the tricky spot of I've got 580k. I could put it across any line. What do I do? Now, as you can see, I've already got a full forward line basically. And in defense, I could go for an option like a Sinclair or a Sicily. Hold on. Got to do this again. So Sinclair, 540. Or I could do like a Sicily at 555. I'm not sure I really want those types. I mean, it could push a Wilmot onto the bench. Like say I move Constable into my midfield. I put Sinclair on where Wilmot is. Constable comes off. I play one of Hollands or Johnson as the loophole. It gets a lot of like bad rookies off, so that's like one like path I could take. Oh, I've got Roberts here, so I'd then have to play two of Roberts, Hollands, Johnson. That's not great. I don't love doing that. Or I could play like Ryan or something instead, but not with that matchup. All right, so that'd be option one. Or what I originally I can't go another forward, but as I kind of teased, I think if you're looking for forwards, obviously Cogs is getting close to bottoming out. He's at 485k. So break even at 108. Brisbane's not an amazing matchup. And neither is the Swans. I mean, this fixture starts getting really hard for GWS. These next 5, 6, 7 games all look pretty tough. So like if you don't have Cogs now, I don't know, and maybe you don't want to. But then yeah, Butters is probably the other option you could look at if this is going to load. Who I think Port's fixture gets good, and he would be close to bottoming out in price as well, and looked good in the midfield. So I think they'll persist with him in there. 52 break even now, so he's hit the bottom after that big 146. West Coast, Saints, Essendon, North, Melbourne, Richmond, Hawks, kind of the next handful. So yeah, Butters would be the other cheap option that you could look for. But yeah, I kind of want a midfielder, so that doesn't leave me a lot at this price. Players I can afford, please don't tempt me with Dawson Oliver. I can't do that. All right, so yeah, who have we got here? Like Sarong, Merritt, Parrish, Cripps. I've just canned a lot of these options. So the midfield's looking pretty slim. I actually want it to be Merritt of all of these. This is probably my preferred option at the moment, but I need him to get off his suspension. If he doesn't get off his suspension, I am a little bit less sure what I'm going to do. My trade plan for next week is probably still to get Will Day for 445k in defense and then bank some money. And then hopefully with that banked money, I can then use my last boost and get something fun happening. But yeah, so that's basically what the plan is for this week. 2 down, 1 up. If you've got Ginby, McKenzie, they're the easy two. Setterfield is probably a one that you could move on from as well, depending on what it opens up. Otherwise, you're looking at maybe a Baker or a Chandler, depending on who you've got in your side, or even like a Kama who might be out for a while. Wouldn't be sideways trading underperformers like Ridley or Kelly or anyone like that. I think you just hang on to them now until the buys, and if you can luxury trade them, then you do so. And then let's just have a quick look of what this then looks like on field. So one of Johnson or Hollands is playing. Johnson against the Dogs or Hollands against the Saints. Neither of those look super appealing. Who the Swans have got the Cats. Ugh. Sampson against Melbourne, I don't like. Green against the Crows, I don't like. So those are all tough matchups. I don't want to field any of my rookies. Down back, can we loophole this week? Yep, Brisbane Lions play first. So loop Wilmot with Constable and Cowan. But I can't imagine I'm ever fielding Cowan's score here. So Constable probably just ends up being my captain for the week. And I think happy with everyone on field there. Not happy with this rookie spot. But if Roberts plays, maybe it's just back him in, given he went 93 in a full game. And then the forwards here, yeah, I've got no rookies on the field there. So wait, how I've only got 4 rookies? Is that right? It feels wrong. Oh, I guess like I'm not really counting as a rookie. Ashcroft, Roberts, McKenna, Wilmot. Because I mean, this is a keeper. So really only 4 left now. That's like not bad. I think a lot of other teams would have 5 or 6 still. But they have better premiums. Like they've got the Dawson-led Oliver. So I kind of have to hope that like their extra rookie scores poor to make up points over the next couple of weeks. In terms of emergencies, I'll probably play... Well, it depends on if Davey's back. Because if Davey's back, right, like I could loop... I mean, I can loop like a... Roberts with Hollands, or I could loop like Green with Ryan or something like that. That could work as well. So yeah, that's the team this week. As I mentioned, I'll just do 1 up, 1 down next week, get Day, bank some cash, and then probably use the last boost that I have after that. So next week's trade is probably what gets me behind because other people will probably then like still be getting in good premium midfielders. Now, if by the way, well, let's talk about what happens if Merritt doesn't get off, which I think is like, with how the MRO works, is likely. But if you've seen my Twitter, I posted a side by side of what a low impact incident, so just a fine, looks like, and it is a copy paste of Merritt's tackle. It was Heaney on Caldwell last year, and that's what they have in their guidelines, in their tribunal rulebook of here's an example of a low impact tackle, and it matches that. So he should get off, but if he doesn't, I think I might have to go early, and I don't want to do this on trading Ashcroft. And the reason why it would be Ashcroft is, hold on, so we still get in Roberts. We still throw Zeeble back. So Roberts should be probably in the forward line. We probably still get Johnson. And then I want to get in someone like Miller, I think. So wait, last trade would be, can I get rid of Baker? Yeah, so if I get rid of Baker, I hold Chandler for another week. I could get Miller in instead. And so how would the team structure up? I mean, I can't get Laird, so this is kind of, or Neil, so this is like pretty easy. I don't have to worry about those. Is it this one or this one? It's just, no, there's one I can afford, that's it. And by the way, like, this is the whole reason why I went value last week. Why did I go Stewart, Jelly, like these cheaper ones? It means I could do this trade this week. If I didn't do that, I wouldn't be able to do this trade this week. So that was a pretty big deal for me in the end, just how I like structured that up. All right, so we've got Roberts there, Chandler there, and then it's going to be Wilmot that ends up being there, Wilmot McKenna. So once again, could loop potentially like Fergus with Chandler, Hollands with Roberts, or even Johnson with one of them. If Davey doesn't come back, but he probably does. It's going to be hard to know though. Like this thing, what the teams won't be announced until, because it won't be Thursday. It'll be Friday or Saturday teams. When's it finalized? Sunday? Oh, is it not going to be finalized until they're all played? I'm not going to be able to use them as a loophole. That's bad. That's really bad. But yeah, I mean, this isn't too bad either. Once again, it's still like only a handful of rookies left. Depending on how McKenna goes next week, it could be someone like him that goes up today, and get Seamus Mitchell in, Seamus Mitchell in as well, which then opens up the DPP. So yeah, it doesn't look great because this is 12 trades and 4 boosts down already. But there's only 4 rookies left to have to get off the field, and then 2 mid prices in Hopper and Warple. So 6 more spots to get off the field, and then, which I mean, hopefully is no more than 14 trades. And it means I've still got 10 for luxuries, injuries, anything else like that. All right, vice captain for the week. Vice captain for the week. So I think every week it's going to be English and Dacos, something like this. Sheasel against Gold Coast probably isn't a bad shout, but I just like, I mean, how could you go past English and Dacos? As good as Sheasel's been, like these guys are averaging 130 plus. Oliver against Tigers, I think, is a really easy one as well. The tricky thing will be with these 2 games here is, like can you rely on like Clary has to be a C. I don't think it can be Dacos. So it might be something like English into English into Oliver would make sense. Laird's got the Hawks, which did he have a good history against them? They haven't been tagging, so I think like he's now a vice captain option. He's a high ceiling, low floor option at the moment. Yeah, I mean he had 178 2 games ago. So if you got Laird is another good VC option. And maybe just given that English's history against Darcy isn't particularly great, like there's 1 ton there in Mickey Mouse 2020, but these are both sub tons. Like if you wanted to go a bit different, you could dodge at English and go one of them. What's Bont's history like against Freo? Hasn't been great. I mean, that one's good, but Freo have been particularly bad. Is this at Marvel? It's at Optus. So they're on the road. So I think like those are all good options. I mean, like Neil, I guess you could try running back, or even Dunkley might be okay in this game. But no, I think you've got English. Oh wait, Took Miller. Took's got North, so that would be the other one that's kind of interesting as well, especially as a more unique option. Got a 170 against him a couple of years ago. Oh, going against English seems so wrong. But like, I guess you could like Miller, Laird, Oliver, English, Dacos are probably my top 5. So there you go. All right, I think that is everything. I don't know how long I've recorded for. I guess probably a while because I did end up going through almost every premium, some of the mid prices, the rookies, just dissecting that and talking about options. And hopefully that does make it a little bit easier for you to do your trades this week. If you have questions, as always, please ask them down below. But I will warn you, if it's been answered in the video, I probably won't answer it again in the comments. I feel like people get lazy. They just ask the question before they watch or listen to anything. I'm not answering those anymore. I'm sorry, I can't do it. But yeah, thanks for listening. Thanks for watching as always. Hope your team's traveling well. Otherwise, I'll see you in the next one. Peace.